From doormat to billionaire owner. The fluorescent lights of the cubicle farm hummed a low, despairing dirge, the same frequency as Maya's migraine. Around her, the muted click-clack of keyboards was a symphony of quiet surrender. Her own desk, cubicle 47B, was a monument to invisible labor. Neat stacks of other people's reports, a wilting spider plant she'd rescued from the supply closet, and a framed photo of her parents, their kind eyes a painful contrast to her current reality. On her screen, the email from her boss, Lyle Braithwaite, glowed with passive-aggressive menace. Maya, the Stenton presentation slides need more pizzazz. Also, my dry cleaning, ticket on your desk, and be a darling, order the team lunch. Remember, no carbs for Jessica. And the Henderson figures, I needed them yesterday. Priorities, please. She'd drafted the presentation. She'd compiled the figures. She'd booked Lyle's vacation villa. She'd even remembered his wife's allergy to peonies for the anniversary flowers. She was 28, a glorified assistant with a master's in business analytics, a human blotting paper for the egos and inefficiencies of everyone from the mailroom to the C-suite. Her colleagues called her Maya the Miraculous behind her back, a title laced with pity. Her friends called her a doormat. Her parents, worried sick, called too often. Maya just called it survival. That evening, as she waited for the last bus in the dreary drizzle, clutching Lyle's unnecessarily urgent parcel, a vintage fountain pen he'd bought online, she saw it. Tucked between a shuttered bail bonds office and a pawn shop was a storefront she'd never noticed, Hartwell's Curiosities and Sundries. The window was grimy, filled with a chaotic jumble, a stuffed owl with one glass eye, a tarnished astrolabe, stacks of leather-bound books, and amidst the clutter, a single clean pane of glass. Behind it, on a worn velvet cushion, sat a watch. It wasn't flashy. It was a man's pocket watch, silver case tarnished to a soft gray, its face a simple, elegant white with Roman numerals. But something about it called to her. The watch seemed to hold the light from the street lamp, not reflecting it, but drinking it in, promising a different kind of time. On impulse, she pushed the heavy door open, a bell jangling a mournful note. The interior smelled of dust, old paper, and ozone. An ancient man, Mr. Hartwell, with eyes like chips of flint, regarded her without surprise. "The watch?" he said, his voice a dry rustle. "It's not for telling the time, you know. Not the time out there." He named a price that was exactly the remains of her meager paycheck after rent, a foolish, irresponsible sum. Maya, for the first time in years, didn't calculate the cost. She simply handed over the money. Back in her cramped, damp studio apartment, she placed the watch on her rickety table. As the city's nocturnal rumble filtered through the thin walls, she held it. The metal was cool, then strangely warm. She traced the intricate, almost organic engraving on the back, not a pattern, but a word in a script she couldn't read. On a whim, she pressed the crown. The world didn't shimmer or warp. Instead, a profound, resonant tick echoed not in her ears, but in her bones. Then, a flood of awareness. She could see the threads of consequence. The damp patch on the ceiling, a leaking pipe in 3B, which would cause a short circuit in Mrs. Gable's in 2 days. The faint smell of gas from her old stove, a failing valve that would fully give way on Friday. And her own life. She saw the skeins of her choices, thin and gray, leading to a future of more cubicles, more Lyles, a slow fading into beige nothingness. But with the watch's touch, she saw something else, potential, alternative paths, glowing with faint, different-colored light. A blue thread, report the gas leak to the landlord. Outcome, fixed in a week, no change. A golden thread, fix it herself, using the tools in the super's unlocked closet. Outcome, saved from potential disaster, a tiny spark of self-reliance ignited. Heart hammering, Maya chose the golden thread. She followed the watch's subtle, intuitive pull to the super's closet, found a wrench, and tightened the valve until the psychic smell of danger faded. A simple act, but as she did, the watch gave a soft, satisfied tock. She felt a jolt, not of electricity, but of agency. The next day at Next Tech Solutions was her crucible. Lyle dumped a catastrophic last-minute data analysis for the board meeting on her desk. Make it sing, Maya, by 10 a.m. It was an impossible task for their entire department, let alone one person. Panic, her old familiar friend, rose. Then her fingers brushed the watch in her blazer pocket. She clicked the crown under her desk. The cubicle farm exploded into a tapestry of information. She could see the data streams on her screen not as numbers, but as flowing rivers of cause and effect. She saw the flaw in the quarterly projections, a hidden cascade of errors stemming from a single mistyped formula in accounting. She saw 3 different ways to visualize it, each with a different persuasive outcome. More astonishingly, she saw people. A shimmer of anxiety around Jessica, who was pregnant and terrified to tell Lyle. A pulsing knot of ambition in Mark from marketing, who was secretly courting a competitor. And Lyle, a hollow, frantic grayness, the color of stolen credit and impending failure. Maya worked, not with frantic desperation, but with the calm precision of a surgeon. By 9:59 a.m., she not only made it sing, she composed a symphony. She presented it to Lyle, her voice steady for the first time. He stared, then a slow, greasy smile spread across his face. Brilliant! Knew you had it in you. He marched off to the boardroom, her work under his arm. The watch pulsed, showing her a new thread, a vibrant emerald green one. Speak now, it whispered. She saw the outcome. Lyle would present her work as his own, gain praise, and she'd get a good girl and more dry cleaning. Maya stood up. She walked past her stunned colleagues, straight to the boardroom. She knocked, then entered without waiting. Lyle with mid-sentence, gesturing to her slides. Lyle forgot to mention that the key insight hinges on correcting this foundational error in the accounting data. I've prepared a brief on the correction and its implications for our Q3 strategy. She handed copies to the stunned board members, her analysis impeccable, her delivery flawless. The green thread blazed. Lyle's face turned purple. She was fired by lunchtime. Lyle, spitting with rage, called her an ungrateful, treacherous nobody. The security guard escorted her out with a box containing her spider plant and her parents' photo. She stood on the sun-drenched sidewalk, the city's noise a roar in her ears. She expected to feel terror. Instead, she felt the weight of the watch in her pocket and a terrifying, exhilarating sense of freedom. She was nobody's doormat anymore. With her severance, which Lyle, fearing a lawsuit, had given her, she rented a tiny office with a flickering neon sign, M. Silva Consulting. The watch became her secret partner. She didn't use it to see the future, but to see the truth of the present, the hidden fractures in businesses, the real talents in people, the invisible connections between markets. Her first client was a struggling organic juice bar owned by a kind, overwhelmed woman named Anya. The watch showed her not just the poor inventory management, but the untapped potential in Anya's secret recipe for a ginger shot. Maya advised, restructured, and helped brand it. Dragon's Fire became a local sensation. Word spread. She avoided the obvious corrupt paths the watch sometimes hinted at. Insider trading, blackmail, those threads were slick and black, and they repelled her. She sought the golden, the green, the blue threads, the ones that built, that healed, that created genuine value. She invested tiny amounts of money with preternatural timing. She brokered deals between companies whose synergies were invisible to others. Within 2 years, M. Silva was a whispered legend in certain circles, a fixer, a miracle worker. Her big break and her moral test came from Sterling Dynamics, a venerable old engineering firm collapsing under a corrupt, stagnant board. The watch showed her the rot in stunning, sickening detail. It also showed her a single brilliant thread of luminescent silver leading to a forgotten basement R&D lab and a shy, sidelined engineer named Aris Thorne. Aris had designed a revolutionary clean energy battery substrate, which the board had buried to protect their fossil fuel investments. Maya orchestrated a breathtakingly audacious coup. Using the watch, she navigated a labyrinth of shareholder votes, legal loopholes, and timed exposures of board misconduct. It was a battle fought in boardrooms and stock exchanges, a psychic chess game where her opponent's next 10 moves were visible to her. When the dust settled, the old board was out. Aris Thorne was Chief Innovation Officer, and Maya Silva, through a complex web of winning investments, emerged as the majority owner of a now soaring Sterling Dynamics. The morning the deal was finalized, she stood on the rooftop terrace of her new penthouse apartment. The city